the irony of being an INFP to me is that, like, from these things that I've read, is that they're always seeing the potential in things, you know, which can be a really awesome thing when you're always seeing the potential in people and situations and concepts that you've thought up yourself, you know. Like I said, the INFP is an inductive reasoner, so they can take something small and then imagine what it's going to be like, you know, and just like watch the little tendrils until they've like looped and glided, and just like watch this one until it's like they can imagine that, you know, they can take something as far as it will go. But there's a downside to that, because INFPs can see it go in a good direction, and they can also see things go in a terrible direction. But all these take one situation and they could see all these, here's the good and then here's the bad, you know, or here's the okay and then here's the bad and then here's the really bad. Like, they'll see all of it. And I think they have a tendency, well, depending on the INFP, end up at least with the really bad and then go with that a lot of the time. And I don't know why. Second guessing, I would say second guessing is second nature to an INFP. I think they second guess themselves all the time. Because I think a lot of the time, like, they want to act what they're feeling, because their feeling is first, and it's a decision-making function. But I think it may have gotten them into trouble sometime in the past. And so what they end up doing is telling themselves, I'm not going to do that anymore because it hurt, instead of learning from things that happen. Because INFPs, guys or girls, I gotta tell you, we all do that, you know? You have feeling as your first function, and it may be more tumultuous, and it probably, you know, you've got to wrangle it and figure out how to, like, present yourself and all that, like, way earlier, and you may have learned when you were little, too. I shouldn't be showing all this, you know? But I would like to tell you, INFPs, that doesn't mean that you should reject your first function. You know, that doesn't mean that you should just stop going with it, because I feel like INFPs get to a point where, oh, I made decisions before using my feeling, which is your first dominant function. And it is the one that you can trust and should trust the most, even if it got you into trouble before, even if it hurt before, because it happens to all of us, no matter what our first function is. Guess how many times that's happened to me? Like, any, just go, you know, we think second, like an ENTP thinks second. They just want to go for it. They follow intuition and they're just like off. Like, you know, I almost sometimes feel like it's TE with the, because we act. Like, ENTPs are actors, not actors like dun da da, but actors as in, if we get an idea, we're just going to do it, you know, come what may. And a lot of the times what may is bad, you know, but you learn from it. And I have started actually learning from both good and bad things. I don't think that I did for a long time. And maybe that's something with any. So INFPs, if you're like in your late 20s, 30s, give it a shot going with your feeling again in your life. Because I didn't always used to learn from my past mistakes either. I wasn't able to always channel those into the future. But now I can. And I didn't learn it by not using my extroverted intuition or my TI. Like, I still kept using them, and now I'm getting to the point that I can access more functions, you know, because I'm furthering in my development. And so I can actually say, oh, okay, maybe following that or doing that in that way, that wasn't so good before, you know? And I think that's kind of an SI-NI thing, honestly. But if you are instead blocking your first function and refusing to act on whatever your first function is telling you and trying to use other functions instead to tell you the right thing to do, most likely, INFPs, you're going to make decisions that aren't right for you. You're going to make decisions that aren't right for you if you're trying to rely on other functions. And the other thing that's going to happen is that your FI, it's going to get stunted and it's not going to grow. It's not going to be able to grow and become richer and be something that you can rely on. But I think having it as your first function, and I can understand why you would distrust it, you know, because it hurts, and it hurts for you most because you have feelings first. But please don't let that, all of you, please don't let that scare you away from continuing to use it. And another funny thing that INFPs do, I think, is sometimes they think that they are using their thinking instead of their feeling to make decisions, because they've decided their feeling just gets them in trouble. But what they don't understand is that they're still using their feeling. Like, they're like, I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to completely put my feeling away. They're still using their feeling when they do that. Their feeling has just gone to a dark place, you know, but their decisions are still being made based on how they feel about them. It's just not in a healthy way. And it's possible it's not even true to who the INFP actually is inside. It's just that they have decided there's like this dark cloud over FI. And so everything, instead of like their usual way of FI functioning and maybe what would be true to them, this huge dark cloud comes over FI. And then they think that they're maybe using TE or something, you know, or TI. Who knows what they think that they're using. Maybe, I don't know. But instead, they're still using their FI. It's just the dark, like thunder, like this cloud that just is hanging and it won't go away. So they might be using other functions, and they might even be using them well. Maybe they've like developed some other functions, but there's going to be something off base a lot of the time. It's going to be an unbalanced functioning for the INFP. If the dark cloud is over here, they think that they're not using it at all, but they are. It's just that all of their worldview is now tainted. It's now tainted with this dark cloud over their feeling, and they are left thinking that they are like safe from it, but they're absolutely not. It's just that they've convinced themselves that they're just like, they've put that past behind them and they're not doing that anymore. You know, if any INFPs know what I'm talking about, I think, or if anybody might even be going through this, I think you would be so much happier and healthier, INFPs, if you have done that or are doing that, if you could get back in touch with your feeling in its pure form, like what it started out as, because you are still using it. You're just using like the super depressed version of it, that like the sullen, like arms crossed, like most likely angry at the world or something, angry at something. FI, when it's going to get the dark cloud, it's usually has its feelings severely severely hurt by something or someone, or maybe even like multiple, you know, and then instead of just dealing with it, instead of just, you know, going away and hiding away for licking its wounds or whatever, and then coming back to fight another day, it's decided that it's just going to keep its arms crossed. And then everything the INFP does and says, and like, and they can get stuck there too for a really long time. I think, I haven't even looked this up, but it's got to be some kind of a loop or grip or something when INFP is just like, I'm not, you know, like puts FI away and is just like, not going to use it, but they still are. That's the crazy part. They're still using it. It's just, it's not short circuit. It's still there, but it's just like, but then the INFP convinces themselves that they're really just like, oh, everything's great, and this is my new way of life now. And then there's the shadow functions.